Hello there. So, talking about family and talking about people that we feel close to in a conversation, and what I wanted to do is to mention that often we have this issue or this dilemma between the people who we grew up with, who you're born to, our blood family, those of us who have one, and the family that we get to meet in our life as it goes on, and the closeness we can feel in groups and events and communities, that kind of thing. So I feel quite a lot about this subject because I watched on Netflix a film, and I rarely watch films. It's called Belfast. It's about Belfast in the 1960s. And I'll just take you straight there. Just close your eyes and just picture this. It's the 1960s, terraced houses, everything's really basic, a bit drab. The clothes people are wearing not particularly wonderful. People are quite poor, but the streets are full of children playing, and the adults are communicating with each other, and you get this immense and immediate feeling of community. And all those people, they live in that area, and they can go in and outside of each other's houses whenever they wish, and there's such a sense of safety and protection. And something terrible happens, which is the troubles happen, and there's a bunch of people at the end of the street, and they are there, and all they want to do is to destroy. They just want to destroy and hurt. And the reason why is because the street contains Protestant and Catholic families who've been living together totally harmoniously, and they are absolutely fine. They're not at all bothered about what religion the person is. To them, they're all friends. But this view from the outside is imposing. It's like a poison, and the poison does all this damage in that community. And people actually end up in a situation they've experienced so much violence and so much threat to their life, maybe injury, and some did, of course, die. But they finally reached the point that they just got to get out, and they're going to go live somewhere peaceful. And this happens all the time. It's happening right now in countries, and you know what they are. Life in your community can become so unbearable that you have to leave. But what was so moving for me at watching this is I had my own opinions and belief systems, and they were colouring how I saw this, until there came a moment when my abilities to empathise, and the character on the film was so strong, I completely immersed myself in the character's consciousness and belief system. And I realised that for that young lad, the idea of leaving all his friends, his neighbours, his school, everything there, it was all going to go, and they're going to end up being a stranger in a strange land. And that's the first time I really understood this gift of what people talk about, the extended family. When we have large families, what it is we support each other, and that's what these people were doing before they got attacked. They were supporting each other, and they were all living with poverty and the issues that brings, and they were doing their best. But that lad knew that he was going to be wrenched away from all that. What was his life going to be like? And then it hit me, the utter fascination of the situation, because that's when I saw, as I've seen before, I literally am a stranger in a strange land. Because if you hear my story, it's so different from the story of that lad. That lad had everyone all around him, and at the end of the film, things get so bad that his mum and dad have to take him to some other place, and we don't quite know where it's going to be. It doesn't matter. So my story is that I was born in another place already, because my mum and my dad were born and brought up in their extended family communities in the north of England. And my dad had a particularly large family. My mother's not quite so big, but still reasonable by today's standards. And what they chose to do independently, they chose to move to a different part of the country, different culture, different values, different behaviour, different attitudes and outlook on life. And they were strangers in a strange land, and that's the land I was born in, to a stranger in a strange land. And then when I was 11, the family moved to another strange land. And then when I was 16, the family moved to another strange land. And when I was 18, I moved to a strange land called a university. And then another place, and another place, and another place. So I don't have what that lad in Belfast had. And it made me realise that there are so many things about being alive today, and one of them is the loneliness, and others the isolation, the others feeling I must do everything myself. Nobody ever lived like that. It's a new way to live. And we can look at it in terms of the extended family, which was traditionalism. Out of that became modernism, which is when people did become economic migrants and moved to a different part of the country, a different part of the world to earn some money. And that's what we had now, where we get into postmodernism, when we had in this country like massive unemployment and loads of people living outside the system. And that's brought us to where we are today, which is a fascinating situation to be in. But that film made me realise just how much me and all the people I know who are living like this are strangers in a strange land. And I've never in my life ever had that true sense of home. Some places more, some places less. But nowhere in this planet has felt like home. It's because I never actually experienced that, because the place that I was born into was a place that didn't mean anything to my mum or my dad. So that has brought about a lot of interesting looking at our ancestors and realizing how important they are. So I had a situation with a particular friendship, and we were getting on very well, and the person concerned really felt like they wanted to make the move and to live in the part of the world that I live. And after due reflection, and I'm so glad that person took the time that they needed, because they realized actually, oh yeah, where Keith lives they do all these cool stuff in Glastonbury, whatever, but actually the person had all their family around them. There was always the support there. And the opportunity to go and live somewhere else was so helpful ultimately, because it produced a massive appreciation for the family that that person does have. So my choice was made before I'm born. So to me, this is totally natural to live in a succession of different places throughout my life. And I'm sure I'll carry on doing so. Who knows? Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll stay here. I could surprise myself here. But I just felt it was so important to acknowledge what I and so many other people who don't have that strong family connection have lost. And no matter how great the connections are we get at the gatherings we go to, the communities we might develop, even the intentional communities. I lived in an entire intentional community for 4 years with 11 adults and 7 children, and the harsh take home from that is that because we were not family, we only got that close, we never actually made the full connection that became sustainable. And what was brought into our awarenesses very sharply was we had a twinning relationship with a village in Africa called Gulu, in Uganda actually. And the people from Gulu came to visit us in Lancashire. We had an intentional community, 225 acres, and they spent the whole day with us, had food, walks and all that. We were just singing, everything like this. And at one point, one of the guys in that village speaks to one of our guys and says, so what's the situation here? Are you all related by blood? And our community member looks at him and says, no. And the guy who's a member of his village just takes one look and thinks, that's not going anywhere. And time went by, and that's absolutely true. So this is to do with community glue. When we have a genetic lineage, when we're actually living in the place where our ancestors lived, that is such a powerful gift. I had a very distressing experience this summer, having a conversation and listening to someone, and she was about to make that choice to leave her homeland and to live in a different country, and there were reasons for it. And she shared very deeply with me the pain it's making of that choice, because of such a big part of her wanted to stay not just with her people, but with her land. And that's another place this goes to. So to all the people who live on the land that you were born, well, blessed are you, and may you continue to live the way you want. Thanks very much. All love to you.